If you've been thinking about or wanting to find a mentor to help you grow your business, you are going to love everything I have to share in this video. Before we continue, I want to give a special shout out to my subscriber, Jahan, who gave me the idea for this video by asking if I would be willing to talk about it just a few weeks ago. So Jahan, if you're watching, special shout out to you. I'm totally dedicating this video to you. Now guys, if you are new to this channel, hi, I'm Luisa Zhou, and this channel is all about helping you grow your own business so that you're able to create true freedom, impact, and abundance. A little bit of context to set the tone for this training. I just want to put out there how much I myself have invested in mentorship over the years, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions about what mentorship is, about, oh, it takes money to make money, which I agree and disagree with, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But there's also so much general advice where entrepreneurs talk about, yes, I believe in mentors, everyone should have a mentor or a coach, but it feels like such a vague thing. So in the context of I myself having run a 7-figure business for going on to year 8 at this point, I have invested over $2 million in myself in terms of coaches and consultants, not only to help me build my own skills in terms of being an entrepreneur, but in my health, my mindset, any areas that I just thought were going to help me improve. Now, I want to give that number specifically so that we start with the context of, okay, this is a tangible thing. The way I think about it is, for me, I think about it as a cost of doing business. I wanted to give that number. And also I wanted to share the context that it's not like, day one, I went out there and spent all this money on investing in mentorship, which I never recommend you do. But it is very much something that is a part of growing. And based on what I've seen with entrepreneurs, with my colleagues who run 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure plus businesses, again, there's that same mindset. It's not just, hey, do I need a mentor? Should I find a mentor? This is a cost of doing business, and you're going to pay for it one way or another. It's just up to you how you want to grow, how you want to do it, and what that looks like. So I want to set that context because, like I said, there's a lot of general misinformation out there. The next thing that I want to talk through is the word mentor. And I actually just shared this in a paid training when a client asked me this a few weeks ago as well. What do you think about the word mentor versus like a coach or a consultant? And I'll tell you, because I think this is really important to frame this conversation, I don't like the word mentor because I think there's a lot of preconceived notions around that word. For me, I know the first time I really heard this term was when I was starting out in my corporate career. And the advice was, hey, you need to find a mentor to help you grow in your career. And the idea was that this was someone probably in the company that you were working at who was an executive or a managerial level and who would be able to kind of take you under their wing, look out for you, and give you advice. And the way I learned it, which is totally wrong, is that, you find someone who you really admire and you want to mentor you and you just ask them, hey, would you like to be my mentor? Thank goodness there's been a lot more career advice out there now about how to better connect with a mentor. But essentially, it's the idea that it's someone who you just go to for a little bit of career advice. They're not really kind of guiding you much more than that. They're just someone kind of maybe you have a monthly lunch with or a quarterly lunch with, or occasionally you're able to go to for a question, but they're not that much more involved in helping you grow or really that focused on you. There's also the idea that the mentorship should be free because of all the reasons that I mentioned. And I think that is just, all of those things are misconceptions about what it is to find someone to help you, or many someones to help you grow. And so for that reason, even though I might use the word mentor in this video a few more times if I forget, the way I really like to think about it is in terms of coaching, advisors, consultants. Those are the terms that I think about when I'm thinking about investing in myself and getting support where someone is like a partner with me, really focused on me and helping me grow. So I really wanted to go ahead and address that first. So let me just answer the questions in a very specific order. The first question, I'm just looking at Jahan's comment, is how you found your mentors. So how I have always found coaches and consultants is I don't go out there and randomly think, okay, let me just try and look for someone. The way I've always approached it is I have a very specific goal that I want to achieve whenever I'm looking for my next coach or consultant. And so the question I ask myself is, what am I looking to achieve and what's going to make this relationship a win? Like, what am I going to learn and get from it that is going to make me think, okay, this investment, I did my best, I got the most out of it. It was 1,000% worth it for me. So if possible, I like to look for someone who has just done the exact thing that I want to do so that I can just hire them and say, please share with me your experience and help me create that path for myself. There have been 1 or 2 times in my careers to date where I've been able to do that. Unfortunately, it's only been 1 or 2 because a lot of the things that I've wanted to do have been kind of very specific to me. And I wasn't able to find someone who had done it the way that I had exactly. So for example, when I was first starting out and building my first online business, I wanted to do it in a way that allowed me to replace my income before I left my 9-to-5. I couldn't find anyone who had done it that way. Everyone was saying it's going to take you a really long time. You have to do it this way or with this business model, or you should just leave your job first. And I just wasn't going to do it that way. So it took me a little bit longer to figure it out for myself, but I was still able to use coaches and consultants to help me, which I'll talk about in a second. Or building my business the way that I've built it now, where I've got a whole bunch of courses, all of them are self-study, really nailing all of my marketing, sales, copywriting skills, building my reputation. I mean, so many different things. And so, like I said, there have been 1 or 2 times where there has been a point where I've been able to find a consultant or coach who's done exactly the thing I wanted to do so I could hire them. Honestly, I would do that all the time if I could. It just makes things so much easier to have someone be able to say, hey, yep, been here, done this with myself and for so many other people. This is the best practices that I would recommend. These are the things to be aware of. So if possible, I recommend looking for someone like that. If not, then what you want to do is break down the skills that you need to master to be able to achieve that goal. So to give you an example, when I was first starting out, as I mentioned, and I wanted to build my first online business to replace my salary before I left my job because I'm super risk averse, what I did was I identified all the areas that I needed to master. I needed to master social media because I wanted to use it to start growing my business quickly, and I really did not know how to use social media for business at that point. I also needed to master copywriting because I only knew how to speak like in a very academic term and corporate speak, all the stuff that we learn in school and at work. I didn't know how to do writing for a business to really connect with people and communicate to them properly. I needed to learn how to do sales, especially sales calls. I'd never done a sales call before in my life before that, but I knew if I wanted to sell a coaching package, which is what I was doing at the time, I needed to learn how to get on a call and sell it. And so what I did after I broke down all the specific skills that I needed to learn, I went out there and found people who specialized in those skills. And then I hired them. And that is what I have continued to do often over the years. Because again, if I can't find someone who has done the exact thing I want to do, I'll break down the skills and I'll figure out, okay, who do I need to hire? To this day, that is something I still do. If there's something I want to brush up on, for example, when I was growing or starting my YouTube channel, I hired specific YouTube consultants. It didn't matter that their businesses were maybe smaller than mine or they didn't have skills in other areas that I had. Who cares? I wasn't hiring them for those things. I was hiring them for that specific skill in understanding how to set up my YouTube channel. So that's just a quick example to illustrate again. And how I found them, once I identified the areas that I needed, was honestly, I used Google and I used social media. So in the beginning, I didn't know anybody in the entrepreneurial space. I didn't know anybody with any of those skills. So I just Googled copywriting coach, help with copywriting. And then a lot of them I found just online through social media, through groups, through people chatting, just kind of browsing. I mean, you'd be really surprised at how quickly you can fall down a rabbit hole and how scarily accurate every social media platform's algorithms are for sending you the content that you're looking for once you start looking. So I wouldn't even worry about that. And then I would kind of check out that person's content a little bit, do some research, and then I would hire that person if it felt like they were the right fit for me. Occasionally, I might find someone through referral. So if I found someone, let's say I didn't do this, but if I found someone who had amazing copywriting skills, and they weren't a copywriter or a copywriting coach themselves, I would say, hey, how did you build these skills? And they said, hey, I hired so-and-so, or I got so-and-so to help me. Okay, great. Can you please connect me with them? So that's another way to do it as well. I have done that in the past for other areas like health coaching, to be honest. And so, these days, what I do, I still do that sometimes, right? If I'm looking for someone to help me. So back when I was starting another business, like a new tech startup business that I wanted to do, I Googled tech startup coaches. Good old Google. Now these days, if I'm able to check with my network, hey, I want to do this thing. Do you know someone who's done it? Hey, I want to publish a book and I want to make sure it becomes a bestseller. Who have you worked with who's able to help you do that? So things like that, I'm able to ask my network a little bit more because I've built that over the years, but nobody starts out with that. And so it's a combination of all of those things. That's how I identify who I want and how I'm able to find them and all of the tips for that piece. I will say one thing. Make sure before you hire someone that you do your due diligence. I love to invest in myself and I'm a fast action taker. So I have to tell you, I have had some bad experiences where I have hired a coach like really quickly within maybe 24, 48 hours of hiring them because I was so excited. I was like, okay, this just feels right. I also like to listen to my intuition. And it turned out that they just had really great marketing, but didn't really know what they were talking about. Now, because I've had that experience though, I'm able to share this warning, but I will also say, having been on that side a few times myself, unfortunately, that I've got an opinion that might differ from other people's. And that is that, you know, there's this common idea that you want to just try and avoid making mistakes when hiring a coach or consultant, right? And I see that holding a lot of people back. Like, oh my gosh, what if this is not the right coach or consultant for me? What if it doesn't work out? What if I waste my money? And again, having been on the other side of that quite a few times, and I like in that perspective, wasted quote unquote multiple six figures on coaches who just weren't the right fit or weren't what I thought they were, didn't have, you know, what they promised. I will say I don't regret it. And the reason for that is because the mindset that I have nowadays is, of course, I don't try to make that mistake, right? But the truth is, if you're doing something frequently enough, you're going to make mistakes. So mistakes aren't something to avoid at all costs. They're something that you try and minimize. In fact, I had a coach tell me earlier on, my job is not to prevent you from making any mistakes. That's impossible. My job is to prevent you from making a mistake so big that you can't recover from it. And that was a huge reframe for me because I started realizing, oh yeah, we're not going to never make mistakes in anything, especially if you're growing. So let me adopt that policy for myself where I'm just going to do my best. I'm going to know that, you know, there's going to be some room for error and mistakes are just a part of the process. Now, even with that, the way I now think about it is even if I hire someone and they're not everything that I thought they were or that they said they were, there's something that I'm going to learn from it. So what can I get from that relationship that's going to make this a win and that is still going to help me in some way, shape, or form? That's how I think about it nowadays. And it's removed a lot of the fear that I have around investing in myself. Of course, still do your due diligence, but that way also I'm able to make sure that I get a lot and everything I need and more out of every kind of coaching, consulting relationship that I've ever had, right? So just take, for example, the bad business coach I hired early on who was really just only good at marketing herself and did not really know too much about business. You know, that's on me. I didn't do my due diligence. What I learned from that, though, was a massively valuable experience that I would say was worth more to me than the 5 figures that investment cost, which is the experience of what it's like working with a bad coach. So I'm able to empathize with clients who come to me and have that similar experience because I know how scary that can be, how it can take you time to recover from that. I also know the kind of coach I'm not going to be, how I'm not going to market myself, and some other random things that I learned just randomly through that experience and having that mindset. All right, so everything happens for a reason. Again, it's not like we're trying to make the mistakes, but they're gonna happen if you're growing. If you're not making any mistakes, you're probably not pushing yourself fast or like outside of your comfort zone enough. And so what is the win versus, oh my gosh, how do I just try and avoid mistakes completely? That's just gonna keep you small and stuck, okay? So the next question that I want to make sure I answer is, how did they benefit me and what did they do for me? So I'm going to answer the second part of that question first. And that is that they didn't quote unquote do anything for me. That's not the point of a coach or a consultant, right? If you hire someone who is going to do something for you, for example, when I hired my site designer who I've been working with for years now, right? The expectation is she is going to set up my site and design my site for me. That is going to be done for me. It's a very different concept with a coach or a consultant. Like if I'm hiring a copywriter, same thing, they're going to write the copy for me. But if I'm hiring a copywriting coach, a sales consultant, things like that, they are there to guide me. I am there to do the work. And what's more, they're not even there to even tell me everything that I need to do to be coached. I need to show up and be coachable. I need to bring the questions. I need to go off and take action and then come back and ask whatever I need more support with. I need to come up and know exactly what I want to get from the coaching process. So that is my responsibility as a coachee. I think it's really important to note because there's a really common misconception around this that responsibility is on a coach or a consultant. No. It is their responsibility to show up, to give you the best support possible, to look out for you however they can, to be aware of the things that you might not even know you don't know. However, it's your job to show up and be coached and do your best to get the most out of that coaching. It's a partnership. It's not like all on one person or the other. So I wanted to address that first so that if you are going to go out there and find a coach or consultant, you are able to get the most out of it. Okay, so now there have been a few times where a coach or consultant connected me with someone else and introduced me to someone in their network. I never expected that. If it did happen, then I was really grateful and appreciative. And of course, if you are a good client, that coach really appreciates you, it's a natural thing to happen, but I don't expect it. Unless that's exactly what I'm paying for, right? So let's say I'm hiring a coach to help me connect with affiliates. Okay, yes, in that case, I am paying for that consultant or coach to help me connect with potential affiliate partners, right? So understanding the premise with that exception, I don't expect a coach or consultant to quote unquote do anything for me. I expect them to show up to guide me, to answer my questions, to have the experience. I do the rest, okay? Now let me talk about how they benefited me. I will tell you, this is cliche but true. They gave me shortcuts. Shortcuts in terms of the trial and error that it took for me to be able to gain that skill or get that result. So for example, one of the first coaches I hired was a sales coach to teach me how to do sales calls. Within about 2 to 3 months of hiring her, because I was coachable, I did my job, I showed up, I asked the questions, I implemented. My sales calls were going from me not even knowing what to say on a sales call to I was consistently, every 3 to 4 calls I had was ending in a client sale. I was knowing and feeling good about how I was responding to people, driving to the sales process in a way that felt genuine and good to me without being salesy. That process, without that guidance, who knows how long it would have taken me? Probably a few years, to be honest, because that coach had a lot of experience. Using myself as an example, like I said, I try and find someone to help me whenever possible. So the mentality I want to take a minute to note is, whenever possible, I want to look for someone to hire because they've already done it. Why would I need to reinvent the wheel? It costs me time and money, frankly, to do that. And so that's different from the mentality I think a lot of people have and that we're taught as a society in general a lot of the time, to try and minimize having to invest in a coach or a consultant to go ahead and, try and figure it out for yourself to save money. No, especially in a business, I'm going to quote unquote save and make a lot more money by getting where I want a lot faster and growing my business. So it's a very important reframe I have. And I have to say I'm very positive this has contributed a lot to my being able to build a business that crossed over $1 million in its first year, and since then has continued to grow every year since for the past going on 8 years. Okay. So they did that. And then, what I will say is there are different types of mentorship, and I'll talk about that in a little bit later on. But I started with books, with courses, and I love all of those. I still love reading all of that. I still buy courses from time to time. But nothing beats having that one-on-one feedback, the experience, the customization, the coaching. That's just not something that you get in a book or a course. And you're not meant to, right? Those are completely different relationships. It's like the relationship you have with your parents versus with a colleague versus with your manager. They're not meant to be the same thing. So understand the capacity and the type of relationship for each and get what you need based on where you are. So we talked about those things. And then again, using myself as an example, I've seen it so much. So one of the things that I did go about year 3 to 4 in this business is I really wanted to turn my flagship program into a self-study course. I knew it was incredibly powerful. I knew that people needed it. I just needed to be able to explain the value of the course in a way that people understood why it was incredible value, even though it was a significant price. At the time, all the people around me, my colleagues, people who'd been in the industry for a while, told me this is not doable. No one's ever done this before. No one's ever put a self-study course for $2,000 and sold it consistently. It's just not doable. And I said, you know what? I disagree. I think the value is, I know the value is absolutely there. I know where there's a will, there's a way. I'm going to figure it out. It took me, I would say, 2.5 years on my own to figure it out with testing, with just testing every piece of it, with driving traffic to it. It was a really long and complicated process. And that's because I didn't have anyone to go to who'd done these things, so I just had to do it myself. Now, these days, that's one of the things I actually help a lot of my clients with. My clients who come to me and are like, I want to do something similar, or, there are a lot of things I've done, so they come to me in one of those areas. Now, remember, it took me over 2.5 years, and it took me 6 figures of testing on driving traffic through my systems to learn and test, and my gosh, we don't even need to go into that. These days, I'm able to help a client. It depends on where they start out, but I'm able to help a client do the same thing and much more profitably in about 6 months, if not less. That, just seeing it for myself is one of the biggest aha moments I've had where I'm like, yeah, I believe in it for myself. I believe in it for what I do. It's the truth, right? There's nothing new under the sun. So if you can find a way to skip the trial and error, if you can afford it, then why wouldn't you? So that is the next piece I wanted to add. And then this question wasn't in Jahan's comment, but I want to mention it because I'm assuming this is part of it. How do you get on a mentor's radar? And I want to talk a little bit about the different tiers of mentorship / coaching, right? So there's this idea that mentors need to be free. So I've seen advice like reach out to a mentor, offer to do something for them for free, and, have them coach you. No. If someone did that to me, I get a lot of pitches every day. I might not even respond. And that's because you offering to do something for me for free, generically, I'm not just saying you specifically, I don't know your skills, right? I have very well-paid and highly skilled people on my team, so it's actually not even valuable to me. My time is incredibly valuable. There are a lot of things I do for free, like I create these videos for you. I write almost daily weekday newsletters. I have monthly blogs. I've done this for years and years and years. So it's not also about the person not wanting to give back. It's just that I want to live my life. I have a family. I have businesses that I want to work on. I have hobbies that I enjoy. And so I have to value myself. That's the truth. Every successful person is going to have some version of that for themselves. And so the idea of getting on a mentor's radar that way, or just like saying, hey, can I, pick your brain or do coffee with you? It's not good advice, right? If someone does a really good pitch, I might be open to that. But frankly, the majority of pitches I've seen like this, I don't even bother responding to because that person is not really valuing my time. And if they get it for free, I don't know that they're going to go off and do something with it. That's why I prefer to use the time that I do give back on free stuff on content like this. We'll talk more about that in a second, right? So the way I think about it is I never try and get a successful person's time for free. I always think about what can I do to make it worth their while. Now, a lot of the time, I can hire that person. So if that's the case, I will hire them. I will pay them the price that they feel fair to get their life experience, skills customized for me. That's the easiest. Now, of course, I mentioned at the beginning of this video, inside this context, I'm able to do that because of the business that I've built. When I was starting out, I did it in increments, right? I had a job to be able to support that. I wasn't like spending millions of dollars up front. I did it at each point based on what I could afford. And if you are at a point where you can afford that, that's totally fine. That's the time for free advice. So when I say different tiers of mentorship, there's the free advice someone puts out. There's like their relatively lower price stuff like their books and or their courses. And then there's their high tiered membership like their masterminds and their private coaching, right? So based on wherever you are, utilize the process, the piece, the tier that works best for you. This is why I said, I don't agree that you just need to go out there and spend money that you don't have to grow your business. No. Absolutely not. Spend what you can, what's smart for you based on where you are. That's a really key point. So wherever you are, what I am able to do nowadays and what I did in the beginning intelligently because I was able to leverage my salary as well is that I just went straight to hiring them if I could. Now, sometimes really successful mentors are selective. These days, I only take a handful of clients a year. I turn away more applications for coaching than I accept. And so I experienced that early on in my journey as well. There was this one mentor I wanted to hire, and what I had to do was she wouldn't accept me early on. And so I bought one of her courses, right? And so got on her radar. I then attended her live event. After her live event, during her live event, I went and spoke to her just for like a second to say hi. After the live event, I sent her a really thoughtful, customized gift, again, saying, hey, I would love to learn from you. Then she had an intensive. I immediately bought that. Then during the intensive, I got, that day's time with her in a group setting. And then she said, okay, I can tell you're really serious about this. I really enjoyed the questions that you asked her in the intensive. Let's talk about how we can potentially work together. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer and you have to do the work because you're successful people. They're not hurting for business. They probably have more business in this way than they can handle. And so it's also about, okay, remember, it's that partnership. You want to be the best client possible. You want to work with the best people possible that are a good fit for you. And so you want to create that partnership and do what you need to make it a win-win both for you as the client and them as the coach. Sometimes you just have to get a little bit creative, like I mentioned. These days, right, when I take on a client, sometimes it's one who's been through that process with me. They've bought a lot of my courses. They've sent me thank you notes. They've been on my radar for a while. Finally, when they're ready, when I feel like they're a fit, we might say, okay, look, we've got this relationship. I know you're going to go ahead and use it. So let's go ahead and do this. So that is something really important to think about. I've shared a lot of different reframes. I think that conflicts with a lot of the common advice out there, but frankly, this is what I have found to be not only the case for me, but frankly for every single successful entrepreneur I know who has a large, profitable, successful business. Now, with that, if you're interested in this, I'm guessing that you're going to be interested in growing your business and building your own financial net worth as well. And so my next video for you is 4 mindset shifts that help me make $1 million before 30. I've got that for you right here. So go ahead and check it out, and I will see you in that video.